Hi everyone. I have recently listened to 3 newish bestsellers. They're books that have been released within the last 2 years, I believe, and they are all very popular, and I listened to them, and so I want to tell you about them. If you are interested in my thoughts on these newish books and the audio, stay tuned. So hello everyone and welcome. This is Book Talks with Miss Thomas and I'm Miss Thomas. If you are new and you like hearing about books, then please subscribe, and if you are returning, welcome back. So this is not a Philippians 4 review. This is just a review of some books that I have been dying to get my hands on. And, you know, I thought about buying them. I know with Jane Harper, I like her books very much, so I probably could have bought that one. And actually the same with Liane Moriarty. Those are authors that are tried and true for me. I very much enjoy their books, but I wanted to get them from the library, and the waiting list was just so long that I finally, a friend of mine said, well, why don't you try Overview or Overdrive? I was like, what is that? I knew about Playaway, I knew about Scribd, I knew about audiobooks, but apparently the library has Overdrive, and I thought that was digital, you know, just like you could read it on your computer, but Overdrive includes audio. So now I have been opened up to a whole world of audio books for free through my library, and it seems like there's less wait if you get the audio, because I guess they're digital and they get returned. I think they get automatically returned after 2 weeks. So I've been in a hurry to listen to them. Anyway, I started with The Lost Man by Jane Harper, and Jane Harper does not disappoint. I love Jane Harper's books. I will say I liked the Erin Falk series a lot, and much better than the standalone books, but I also would recommend The Lost Man, just not quite as highly as I would recommend the Erin Falk series. And I don't think I'm alone in that, because in the recording, she was interviewed after the performance of her novel, and she was asked, you know, is she going to continue with the Erin Falk series? And she said yes. So yay, because I love the Erin Falk series. I love the idea of a forensic accountant trying to solve crimes. So anyway, The Lost Man is not part of that series, but it's a wonderful book about the Australian outback. If you know Jane Harper, if you know her books, you know she has a reputation for incorporating the Australian setting as almost a character in her books. And she definitely did that in this book, The Lost Man. So The Lost Man is the story of Nathan, whose brother Cameron dies tragically outside. He's dehydrated and left for dead in the Australian heat. And it's interesting because his car has lots of water in it and emergency supplies. It seems that the car was working, you know, the air conditioning was working, there was gas in the car. So the mystery behind The Lost Man is, how did this guy die dehydrated in the middle of the Australian outback if he had water and a car? What actually happened that night or day? We don't know. He is discovered by his brother. Cameron is discovered. Well, I don't know. I don't remember who actually discovered the body, but Nathan goes and sees the body. And then there's another brother named Bub. I thought it was Bob when I was listening to it, but I double checked online. I researched a little bit and it was Bub. So at least that's what the internet said. It sounded like Bob to me. But when I listened to the book, it was the story of the 3 brothers and the mystery about what happens to the brother. How did he die? And of course, as the story unfolds, you find out that the characters are far from perfect. They all have, you know, different things that happened in their lives that make them suspect for one reason or another. And, you know, you start to really wonder, who can you trust in this really grueling story of, grueling nature and to some extent grueling family, because the family can be kind of harsh to each other sometimes as well. And so it was an interesting story. And also Nathan has this son named Xander. And I thought that was such a cute name, Xander, but it was for Alexander. And there's a little bit about Nathan and his son Xander and how they try to have a relationship. They sort of try to rebuild their relationship because Nathan is divorced from Xander's mom. And so the story really, it's a mystery about Cameron, who died in the Australian outback, but it's also really more, I found more compelling, the character of Nathan and Nathan's love interests and Nathan's relationship with his brother and Nathan's relationship with his son Xander and why Nathan got divorced. And I cared the most about the character Nathan. And he is telling the story about his childhood with his two brothers, Bob and Cameron, and trying to just figure out what exactly happened the day his brother died. So The Lost Man by Jane Harper. I will say also the audiobook was very well read, and the actor, I guess, reads most of the Jane Harper books because the interview after the book was Jane Harper and the actor, and it seems like they collaborate quite a bit. I don't think that the audio added to my experience in that particular case. Now, I'm new to audiobooks. I guess I'm a little bit of an old lady. I like the paper books, I definitely, my eyes can't handle the computer all the time. So I thought it would be an interesting change of pace from the paper book to the audiobook. And it's interesting. One thing I want to say in this video is audiobooks enhanced my experience sometimes, and sometimes they didn't. I think in this case, I would have preferred the paper book to the audiobook. And that might just be me and my personal preference. But, well, it's not just me, because a friend of mine, it was funny, she got in my car and the audiobook came right on because I've been listening to it, everywhere I go. And she said, "Oh, you're listening to Jane Harper's book. I know that voice, And I have found that speeding it up, going into the settings and putting it on a faster speed made a big difference for me. It was more enjoyable." And I thought that was kind of interesting. I think that might be cultural. Americans maybe speak faster than Australians. I'm not sure, but I did not speed up the voice because I was almost done with it, but I definitely understood her point that there was something about the slow pace of the book that did not engage me. And I think that it might have, you probably were intended to hear the slower pace because it was a mystery. It probably was supposed to add to the mystery and the suspense, but it didn't really engage me. So I enjoy Jane Harper's books, and I do recommend The Lost Man, but if I were going to listen to another one of her audiobooks, I would take my friend's advice and go in the settings and speed it up a little bit. So that is my perspective on The Lost Man. Now, the second book that I listened to was a really immensely enjoyable audiobook, and I highly recommend this book. And I just found it. I didn't know anything about it. I may have heard about it, I think, on YouTube somewhere, or maybe I saw it on the internet, but I was just looking, through this library audio catalog, and I came across The Thursday Murder Club, The Man Who Died Twice is what I think it was called. And I thought, okay, I'll give this one a try. And it was very good. I had even hoped it might be a Philippians 4 book at one point, but there was just a few things. So none of these books would go on the Philippians 4 list. They were good, enjoyable books, but I wouldn't recommend them to young adult, teenagers, or specifically to Christian young adult readers. But they were not, shocking or horrific. I just thought they were a little bit more mature than I would want, to say to someone else's child. But The Thursday Murder Club was a really fun audiobook, and that was the story of these elderly people, and they were so breezy and fun. And that's what I think the audio really enhanced my experience, because the person reading the book had this like fun, light, airy, breezy tone in the way that she read the book. And I think maybe if I were reading it, you know, pen and paper reading it, I might have missed the humor in the book, because there was a lot of, you know, really intense, terrible things, like murders would happen. And then the person would be wondering the most random, bizarre thing, like, should I get a dog? Or, well, who really gets tattoos anymore? You know, and, or, you know, does this person like their tea with the tea bag in, or am I supposed to take the tea bag out? And it was really funny because the book would be talking about something really serious and mysterious. And then all of a sudden, you know, the narrator would go on some, you know, bunny trail about tea or tattoos or something. And I thought that was funny. If I were reading it, I might have missed the humor there, but the voice of the reader really added to it, because the woman reading the book was just very airy and flighty, and that was countered by the, you know, the spies and the espionage aspect of it. And so these elderly people, the Thursday Murder Club, I guess they're spies. I'm not sure exactly. They're like agents of some sort, and they solve murders, and they collaborate with police people, and the police people are trying to catch a drug dealer. I think the police detective's name, I think, was Donna, and she was trying to catch a drug dealer named Connie. And that was a little bit funny too, because Donna's doing a stakeout, watching Connie, and Connie just comes on up and says, hello, would you like some coffee? You know, I see you're watching me. And it was just very a lighthearted suspense. It was just a perfect balance. And so the police are trying to catch the drug dealer, while this main character, Elizabeth, she's like this really phenomenal agent who has a divorce. Her ex-husband, I think his name was Douglas, and he stole some diamonds from the mafia, and he wants her to protect him because the mafia wants their diamonds back. And so she's, you know, she can't resist a good challenge. So she's trying to protect him. And he has this other agent with him named Poppy, who's this young new agent. And it's so funny because Poppy has a tattoo of a poppy. And so on the one hand, there's this storyline about, you know, the diamonds and the mafia and the police trying to get the drug dealer. And then there's a lot of like bunny trails about Poppy's tattoo, or Poppy reads poetry, you know, and I just loved that about the book, especially being audio. It was like, you know, when you're talking to a friend and they can go on and on about something really serious and then just go into some sidebar that's sort of random and silly. And I felt like I was listening to a friend tell me a story, and I enjoyed that audiobook very much. So The Thursday Murder Club, I think it's a series. It's brand new to me. But I really enjoyed the book, The Man Who Died Twice, and I liked the elderly people, you know, being really tough agents and trying to take on the mafia and the drug dealers, and they were actually very good at their jobs, and it was really fun, and it was an interesting mystery too to find out what actually happened to the diamonds. So that was a lighthearted, silly, fun mystery that I highly recommend. The last one I have not yet finished. I'm a good 2/3 of the way through, but I wanted to get this filming for you and tell you about it. I don't know about the rest of the booktube world, but when my kids leave the house, I'm like, yes, I'm going to film, because it's hard to film with so many people running around my house. And I just happened to get a moment where my kids are out somewhere, and I said, okay, even though I haven't finished Apples Never Fall by Liane Moriarty, I have been dying to read it, and I'm a good 2/3 of the way through the audio, and so I will tell you about that one. Now, that is I mean, it's classic Liane Moriarty. So when I had said Jane Harper is known for making the setting part of her characterization, I would say Liane Moriarty, to me, what I like about her books is the characterization, the character development. The characters are just so, they're just so fun and engaging, and you know, you want to laugh at them, you want to cry with them, and I just really, I'm invested in these characters. The Apples Never Fall is about, it begins with a man and a bicycle, and I'm not really sure what that has to do with the ending of the book yet, but there is a man, and I think he's hit by a truck, and he's got a bicycle. And then the story goes between the present and the past. And the story is about this tennis family. And the tennis family is, they are visited by this woman in the middle of the night who shows up at their house and claims that her boyfriend beat her up. And they take pity on her, this elderly couple. They take pity on her and they bring her in and they clean up her injury. She's been cut on her head. They clean up her injury and they're just horrified by this man who she says beat her up, and they let her stay with them. So the woman, her name is Savannah, and she ends up being an integral part of this couple's life. So the elderly couple, come to find out, they ran a tennis company and they were competitive tennis players, and then they taught tennis and they tried to help other people become competitive tennis players, and tennis is their whole life. And they have 4 children who were raised to be competitive tennis players. And of course, none of them as adults ended up being competitive tennis players, but one has a medical practice. One, Amy, she was my favorite character. She just is always in different therapy sessions, and she has different, she's very reactive emotionally, prone to, I guess, outbursts. And I liked her because, well, I still like her. I'm still listening to the book. I like her best because she speaks her mind. And then the other sister, she's more, Brooke, her name is Brooke, and she's more like, she's got the medical practice and she's much more like orderly and structured. And then the 2 brothers, one is very successful, like rich. Did you hear my cat? That's a cat, Truffles. Pay attention to me. And then the one brother is really rich and successful. His name is Troy. And then there's the brother Logan, and he is a college professor. So these 4 kids, they of course don't trust this woman, Savannah, who's come into the house and endeared herself to their parents. And so they're very suspicious of this Savannah person. And why is it that Savannah has all of a sudden latched onto their mother, and the 2 are like BFFs? They go shopping together and Savannah cooks their meals. And it's just a little odd how this woman has ingratiated herself to this elderly couple, and the kids are rightfully concerned. Well, then that's, I guess, the past. And then there's in the present, the mother is missing. And so has she been killed? Is she just missing? It seems to somehow be connected to the man that was hit by the truck that had the bicycle. I'm not really sure why yet at this point. But, you know, what has happened to this mother? Why is she missing? And has she been killed? And then there's a lot of suspicion cast on the dad, the husband. And of course, you know, you find out the marriage wasn't quite what you thought, and none of the characters are quite what you thought. And Savannah especially has some pretty interesting secrets. So I am really enjoying Apples Never Fall by Liane Moriarty as well. I would say that's a good audio also. I'm enjoying the audio. I think I will say with the Thursday Murder Club, there was a lot of intricacy, is that right? Intricacy, I don't know. with the Thursday Murder Club, there was a very intricate plot. There were a lot of layers. And so having a paper book to go back and reference and keep track of all the different plot lines and different characters might have been helpful to me, but I really enjoyed the narration. The Lost Man, the narration was Australian and mysterious and, suspenseful, but my friend had advised to speed it up, and I might, if I ever listen to another Jane Harper, I might go in the setting and speed it up a little and see if that makes a difference. For me, it was good though, of course. I mean, I'm not a professional audio reader, so who am I to say? And then for Apples Never Fall, I am enjoying the audio as well. And that one might be just right, like Goldilocks. One is too slow, one is too layered. But I definitely think that the Thursday Murder Club, The Man Who Died Twice, that audio, the way the woman reads it really adds to the humor of the book. And then with Apples Never Fall, the audio is perfect because I can follow along with the story, and it's told from the perspective of a woman, and this is mostly, the characters are mostly women. And so I definitely am enjoying this one immensely too. And all three I highly recommend. And I'm so glad that my friend told me about this overdrive at the library, because I thought it was just digital books, you know, that I would have to look at on a screen, and that doesn't interest me at all. So to be able to listen to these books from the library and to be able to access more popular titles, because I guess the audio seems more accessible at my library than the paper versions, I'm really enjoying that. So I hope you're out there and you're also reading and enjoying lots of good books. And I will be in touch very soon with another Philippians 4 review. But I wanted to also do a video on some more current releases that are very popular. And I wanted to talk about audiobooks. So that's all I have to say. Goodbye for now.